How did you get to New York? What's the story?
Well, I went to drama school. I have
Really?
a BFA. Yeah, I went to it's called North Carolina School of the Arts, and I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, so it kind of going to New York was a option that made sense for me, and it was also kind of the like normal thing from that school that was more encouraged. There were like the sort of industry contacts that they were building for us were really New York based, so it kind of like made sense right away. And I actually booked a job like at the very end of college that was in New York and moved for that. But I think I would have come anyway.
So you always knew this was the destination?
I don't know if I always knew. I was kind of I lived in a very insular kind of, I don't know, like myopic world when I was a teenager. So I don't even know how hard I thought about it. I wasn't like one of those kids that's like, I did think about the future, but I didn't have really concrete plans. But by the time I was in college, that was pretty much the plan. And
you landed a job right away?
Yeah, I got lucky. I don't know. It was like a beginner's luck, really. Like my first audition, I booked it. I sometimes those kind of like crazy things happen when you're just like fresh out the gate, I guess.
Do you remember how that unfolded? Was it a ton of different auditions followed by an offer? How did it come
crazy.
About?
It was I don't really remember why the first audition, but it was 3 auditions, I think, in a row. And then I got it, and I didn't even really understand what it was, but it was a really great play. And it was a big role. It was exciting. Yeah.
You got here and did you have a network? Did you have a community here, or how did you?
Yes and no. I had some friends that also moved from the city. And there were alumni from the school, but that wasn't like so much of a network. So not really, other than my friends that I moved here with. I did have, at the time, my best friend growing up had also moved here. She had just graduated college, and she was like working in publishing, doing something completely different. But I moved in with her, and that was kind of a nice way to like integrate my past and future lives. Like, so that was nice.
Was that job enough for you to survive, or did you also have to immediately find other work?
Well, that job they weren't paying that well at that job because it was, downtown. It was a downtown theater, and they were doing a very ambitious like program of a bunch of shows at once. I mean, my to be honest, my parents were like helping me at the beginning, kind of like make that transition. Because I didn't have like much in the way of savings or anything like that. So, but it was full-time rehearsal, like, 8 hours a day and performances. Wow. So there wasn't really a way to start like working beyond that right away. So yeah, I was getting some help, and I was really lucky to have that, because I think I don't even really quite know how I would have made that all work if not for that.
Did you always know this is what you wanted to do?
I vacillated. I did really like I was pretty invested and involved in being an actor from the time that I was young. But I considered other options. Also, like, something about it always felt a little unrealistic to me growing up. I just kind of didn't really see it as something that people could do. Yeah. It seemed like, oh, I'm going to be like a rocket scientist or something, like this kind of like dream career that you have when you're a kid, but then you like grow up and like the real world kicks you in the face and you like realize that, I don't know, you're supposed to do something more like practical. And I keep like waiting for that to happen. Like I still kind of do believe that. To be the case. So I thought about doing some other things, but then it turned out those things were also like industries that are also like kind of really ambitious and hard to break into, like journalism or something like that. Like a lot of those professions are really hard. But that wasn't why I didn't do them. I just ultimately like realized that acting was what I really wanted to do.
How did you know that?
I don't know. It comes and goes in like different waves of certainty and uncertainty, and I don't know, like various vicissitudes of certainty and doubt. And like, people being around you who also believe that is really affirming. Yeah. Like I went to it was a state-run something called Governor's School, and it was really great, like arts program and that they had in the summer. And a lot of people there were going to conservatories, and that made me realize like it was a realistic possibility and kind of grounded it in like normal people actually do this kind of thing. So that I think helped me kind of see it as a more like viable profession.
Do you remember your first acting role growing up?
I definitely do. I 100% do. It was Grease in fifth grade play. I played the cheerleader kind of boldly and obnoxiously. I was a shy kid, and it was like I guess a fun way to assert myself or something. So I remember that kind of somewhat vividly. Did
you feel like there was a natural talent or ability there, ease on the stage? How did you remember how you felt?
I don't know if I would call it ease, but I would definitely call it in desire. I definitely really liked it. And even when I was watching like other people do it when I was younger and they were in the plays, I really knew that I wanted to be up there, and I would imagine myself in that role. So I definitely had like a drive toward it. And I got a lot of people really seemed to be like, wow, Mia, you were great in that. I mean, you know, how old are you in fifth grade? I don't know. So maybe they were saying that to everybody. And I just thought that they thought I was doing great. But I think I was definitely one of the most like, there were a couple people who were like especially enthused to be in this play, and you know, some other people who their attention is somewhere else.
Is that mostly because you like the feeling of being on stage and doing a play?
I think I really liked playing pretend. Like I was kind of a late I kept playing pretend like past the point when you were supposed to give it up, you know, those kind of like games that kids play where they imagine themselves in different worlds and stuff. And I think that's common probably with a lot of actors. Like I really liked doing that, like now we're this girl in the Oregon Trail and we're like running away, or now we're escaping from Nazis or something. Like they were very like complicated different stories that we had, and I've found that really fun. And I guess this was like a way to keep doing that once you have like more self-consciousness.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I also liked the attention, and, you know, especially you hear so many actors are shy or they moved around a lot as this kid, kind of common origin stories. And so I do think like the way of asserting yourself or like asserting aspects of your personality that might not exist in like an everyday context, or maybe they're not actually aspects of your personality, but forms of a personality that you find fun to embody and don't normally. Yeah, I guess all of those things are kind of like pleasurable in some way.
Do you happen to remember if there were times in high school that really encouraged you to pursue this even more deeply? Like you do the Grease play, and when you're in fifth grade, you go into high school. Are you continuously getting feedback from people as you're doing, I assume, productions at that age, that there might be something here?
To a certain extent, yes. I think I was definitely like known as one of the people in the school who were really serious about acting and really involved in the theater group. And so, yeah, to some extent, but it wasn't like people are like every day, oh my God, Mia, you're going to be a star. It was nothing like that. I think it was just people knew it was a really avid interest of mine, or maybe something that I did well.
What was college like?
It's kind of intense. It was a conservatory program, very small, like 30 people, very insular. And it was confusing because I came from an environment that I was really comfortable in and really felt like I understood and had found a place there, even if there were things that weren't totally fulfilling about it. And I was eager to, you know, live a different life. I did feel comfortable, and college kind of right away, they demanded a lot of you emotionally in terms of like digging into your past and, we did these exercises where we would embody different animals that seemed to stand in for different kind of aspects of our subconscious.
Whoa.
Or elements of our emotional trauma. And so right away there was this push to connect emotionally with your past and trauma and be able to, with the goal of being able to channel that into your acting and to your emotional availability. But it was very confusing for me. And I'm sure college would have been confusing for me no matter where I had gone, because my identity just wasn't formed in a lot of ways. And I was really confused and insecure about a lot of things. But I think this kind of accelerated it in certain ways, where all these questions were pushed into my face very intensely. So there was a lot of questions for me about my identity. And I guess I became sort of self-involved in a way. And I guess that's common at that age. You're kind of figuring out who you are. So yeah, it was a lot of, I don't know, existential panics, crying in the car with my friends to music. But there were some great things that I learned at the school. And a lot of them are things that I've later come to understand more deeply or appreciate, especially the voice and speech work we did, the Shakespeare. I feel like it's given me a connection to my like emotional life that I don't know if it would have been there as much without that training. So yeah, but it was also competitive. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody's geared towards professional success. Everybody knows that success is limited and difficult to achieve, and that can color and distort the way that people are compelled to relate to each other. But I made some really great friends out of that school, and I'm close with some of them still to this day. So,
do you feel like you came out of it as a better actress?
Yes and no. I feel like I almost booked a part when I was in high school in a movie, and
really,
Rooney Mara got it instead of me. It was like a indie movie, and at that time I had no training. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just kind of like saying the lines. And I kind of felt like after I came out of school, I was so filled with like self-consciousness and confusion that maybe like I couldn't do that in the same way, because I would be more compelled to like intellectualize what I was doing and think about all of the rules that they teach you in school of what you are and aren't supposed to do as an actor. So I think there was like a period where that all had to synthesize. And so ultimately, yes, I definitely think it made me a better actor. And I think there's a lot of different paths that are equally viable for different people. I don't think there's like, you have to go to a conservatory or anything like that. And I have friends who really disagree and don't feel like they became better from the school. But I do think that, yeah, I mean, I learned how to handle heightened text and all the technical aspects, but also the sort of Stanislavski, Meisner, all the different forms of training. I think as they slowly like dropped in and I stopped having to be so paranoid and analytical about them, like they started to come through.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah. After your first stint in New York where I think you said you were training 8 hours a day, preparing for that. Rehearsing 8 hours a day. Talk to me about the first few years you were here. Are you moving very easily from project to project? Are there gaps in the work that you're doing? How did that go?
It was a confusing time. It was so confusing because you're like, who do I want to be? And at that time, identity seems like fluid. And I remember we went to a party with my friend who was my friend from home that we had moved in with. And she was like, look at all these people trying on personalities. And I was like, well, I'm kind of trying on personalities. I don't know yet what I want either. So it was confusing, figuring out who you are at the same time. And I got some great jobs. My first TV job right out of school, like about 6 months after the play, was a TV show with Kyle MacLachlan, and I had like a really cool part, and it was so exciting. But then there were like long periods when that didn't happen either, and I felt like I was a loser and I should quit, or I was pursuing other things. I don't know. It's confusing. Early 20s are hard.
Yeah. Did you ever seriously consider quitting? Did you almost quit?
Yeah, at various points in time. I don't know how serious or not I was, but I definitely considered other. Yeah.
Did you have an expectation that earlier in your career you would have this meteoric rise? Was that the expectations and the reality were?
I don't think I would have ever believed that uncritically. I certainly fantasized about it at different times about achieving success, but I don't think I would ever believe that was destined to happen. I mean, maybe in a moment of fantasy. And I do think there is a kind of hubris and confidence that you have as a younger person when you haven't really been beaten down by the world. That you're kind of yeah, things will work out for me because why wouldn't they? But I don't think that's true. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think I always had moments of extreme doubt mixed with hope and maybe some delusional confidence.
What kept you in it?
Love of the game. No, I don't know. It's really fun. I like doing it. I have had enough success that I've been encouraged to keep on. Certain people in my life who have really encouraged me, especially my fiance. And I love acting. So that's a huge part of it. And yeah, just never really found something else that made as much sense to me. And then luck too. I mean, luck plays such a huge role in how things go, getting the right part, coming along at the right time. There's so many stories about people who pack in their bags to go home and they get the call, know. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's an amalgamation of things.
What do you regard as your biggest successes so far?
Oh gosh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. Biggest in terms of prestige or artistic achievement, or
either.
How would you
however you
that?
would define that as being successful to you? And maybe a better question is which one, if you had to pick of the projects you've worked on, would you regard as at least being in that league?
I don't know. I mean, I sort of see all the plays and stuff I've been doing the past few years. They kind of all, to me, are part of the same project in a way, even though they're different individual pieces. They, in my mind, are kind of part of a cohesive drive of doing this indie theater. So it's hard for me to separate one and say this was the one where I really triumphed, or this was the perfect thing, because I see them as kind of blending together in some way. And I'm proud of different things that I've achieved in all of them, and less happy with others. I mean, the thing that's technically still the biggest success in terms of a kind of prestige mindset is that TV show. And there's a lot of acting on it that I did that I'm really not proud of. So I think I don't know. There's work I've done in all the plays that I'm proud of, and elements that I think didn't work as well.
What makes a great actor?
Great question. I don't know. I don't have a theory of it. I don't know. I'd like to get Robert Sapolsky's take. But I think that I don't know, who are some of the great actors, Philip Seymour Hoffman, someone who's really just a great actor. What makes them great? I don't know if I think there's a lot of different qualities that actors have in different amounts in each time. They have, is your question what qualities are constituent or like necessary components of being a great actor, or like what do you see when you see someone acting that you're like, they're great?
Let's go with the first.
So I think that actors often have pretty like interesting. Okay, first of all, the first thing that you have to do to be a good actor is understand the rhythm of human speech. That's like the ground floor.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, it's hard. Like sometimes, you know, someone who's really not an actor doesn't want to be an actor. They might be a brilliant person, but they read a script and it sounds like a computer talking or something. So you kind of have like an innate ear, I think, for like human speech. You have an emotional kind of depth and range where you are comfortable, or at least willing to be uncomfortable enough with sort of the vast range of human emotion. I think you have to have like you have to be a strong like analytical reader, actually, because you can really read a script and understand both like what a person might be thinking in this situation and also like the tone of the situation that's intended. Is this something that requires a lot of gravitas? Is this something that's funny? And like how, and then a kind of with enough nuance in your perception about things to see how those all can like blend together in even like really small micro moments where someone's both devastated but then finds humor in it. I think you need to have like a relaxation and like fluidity often to kind of be responsive to things as they're happening. I think for me, my favorite actors tend to be, though there's many people who do not fit this, but people who really do transform into their characters. Like I find that like some of the most inspiring like examples of the art form where somebody really is changing their body and their way of speech and their kind of reactions mentally. It's almost as if they've like put a new brain into their minds, and their eyes even are like seeing different things. Like that's really miraculous to me. I don't know how they do it. I don't know, you know, because I think like many people can be good actors. I don't know what makes a really like great artist. I'm sure there is like an element of natural talent and hard work and a lot of different things that go into it.
I don't know if anyone comes to mind given the description you just gave, but if someone or some actors do in certain roles where they do transform, who are those people that come to mind?
I mean, I think Philip Seymour Hoffman is pretty different in every role. Like if you think of like Boogie Nights to The Master, he's doing comedy, he's doing different like sexual orientations, different kind of points of view about life. And there is a certain threads to his character. It's still him and he's still bringing himself to every role, but you really see that he's like picking, like I watched, oh God, what's the movie? Completely having amnesia. With Matt Damon and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Talented Mr. Ripley. Yeah, like that character, like it's so specific. Like you're exactly like, oh, I like know that kind of a guy. But at the same time, it's so his take on that kind of a guy. Or in Punch Drunk Love, he's like, on the phone, shut up. Yeah, he really like makes you believe he is in that socioeconomic situation, that world. Jeremy Strong, I think, is like doing that. I'm like Team Jeremy with The Apprentice. Who else? There's some. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is a pretty highly regarded example. And there's others, people who I feel like do it in like subtler ways. It doesn't have to be just this like totally, makeup aesthetic transformation. What's his name? Colin Farrell did it, right? And Penguin. I'm like, you're this like kind of feat of makeup and all of it. But I think there are like more subtle ways to do it too. I would probably have to like think more about who those people are. But I like, I guess, when actors bring themselves to the character, not the character to themselves. But I do think you have to like meet somewhere in the middle. There was this acting, one of the first things they taught us in acting school, this activity was make a list of everything the playwright says about the character. And then everything that the character says about themselves. And then you kind of compare them. And then you also have to like think about yourself in relation to all those traits and how you can like put them in the middle. And so, I find that impressive when people seem to be like thinking enough about like what it would be like to be in the mind of another person. I think that's cool.
Do you remember when you were growing up, if you saw a performance like that and you thought, I want to do that, or I could be that? Or was it just more accidental than that, where you stumbled into Grease in 5th grade and kind of launched from there?
I think I was like not that self-aware as a kid, where if I was like seeing a great performance, I would be more sucked up into it. Like I want to be Cinderella, not like I want to be the actress playing Cinderella. Like I had sort of a imagination that was maybe more like uncritical at that time, where I would kind of go with the story. I don't remember like at what point I was kind of aware that these are actors and that they're doing something I want to do. But I think that came like later after something like Grease, or the one before it was Oliver. When I was in 4th grade, I really wanted to be in Oliver. The tragedy was I couldn't sing. So, and like all you do when you're little is like musicals, and I really couldn't sing. So it's hard for me to like break in.
Given the requisite skills that is necessary to even be a decent to good actor, what do you notice in yourself that you had as gifts or a gift that made it probably easier for you? Not that you were perfect, but at least that you could do it relatively well, that probably most other people don't necessarily have.
I mean, I don't know whether or not other people have that. I think for me, like specifically, the imagination part that I talked about, I think was a huge component. Like even when I have some like writing of myself that I'm like writing stories as a little kid, it'll be something like, my name is Joanna Strumwell and I like live on the frontier. Like I had like a pretty like vivid imagination, and I was reading a lot, and a sense for like different people in different places, and kind of a desire to embody that. So I think that was like kind of the way in for me, was just like dropping in to the world. And like, I mean, that's like another of the first things they teach you in acting school is like, what are the given circumstances and like, can you believe them? And it's not that you're psychotic on stage and you actually don't know you're performing, but there is like an element of tricking your mind into accepting this is true. And I think I had that capacity.
I'd love to talk about memory too, because to me, one of the things that's so crazy every time I go see one of these performances is just the amount of dialogue that is committed to memory by these people who maybe had never even read the script 2 weeks prior. I'd love for you to talk about that.
It's funny because there's like always a cliche of like your parents come to see the show and it's like, how did you learn all those lines? You know, but like then you really think about it and you're like, wow, how did I learn all those lines? I don't know. I'm lucky. It's pretty quick for me. Like I can just read it a few times and it's pretty much just there. It doesn't normally like take me much effort to remember the lines. And I think that makes it like, that's certainly like a luxury because it just makes it easier, a level of like, and I don't know if that's maybe because I've been acting since I was a kid, that like, you know, you train certain parts of your brain and are more adept at it. And I think that's like definitely possible. But also when you said memory, I don't know, this is a little tangential, but I think memory is such a core component as well of like an actor's instrument, is how you like mobilize your memories. There's a school of acting that's much more like based on your personal memories, like the kind of Strasberg method, where you're really like remembering your traumatic experiences or happy experiences. And then there's schools that are more based on what's called the as if, where you kind of invent imaginary circumstances, but that are linked to what the character is going through, but through some kind of like metaphorical resonance in your mind or subconscious or something, it still triggers your own like emotional recall and you have like an emotional response, I assume, because there is like a kind of resonance with your own experience, even though you're putting it in different words. So I think having like a strong emotional memory is kind of an important part of being an actor. And I mean, that's also just, part of being human. But it's something that you have to kind of be in contact with when you're acting.
I've seen you at least twice, I think maybe 3 times. And one of the things that I think the first time I saw you was in Uncle Vanya at a performance of that play. And it's fucking intense. I mean, that I'd never seen that before. And that's to me, it seemed like such a depressing story and difficult to watch even as an audience member. But the closing scene is you basically giving a pep talk to one of the characters and you're sobbing.
Yeah.
Again, as an audience member, in addition to the incredible feats of memory that are often in display right in front of me, the feats of emotional vulnerability and like the ability to tap into that in front of a bunch of strangers. How the hell do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that speech like gets me every time. It's just really sad. Even I remember reading it before I was in the play, just in an acting class or something, and I just found it incredibly moving. I think because it taps into my own fears or maybe self-pity or a sense of kind of an understanding of that, what something like that might feel like. And so something like that, I don't know, it just kind of was emotionally resonant enough for me that I pretty much felt deeply moved by it most of the times that I did it. They talk a lot about when you're acting, you're trying to suppress emotion but at the same time it's coming, and all of that felt pretty authentic to me in that play. It was kind of an emotionally challenging play for me. I started to like really kind of be emotionally worn out. Like my face really was irritated from crying so much and like keep rubbing my eyes to try to stop crying. And it's not a play that's meant to be all doom and gloom. Like there's a lot, the character wants to have hope and has some hope throughout the first part of it. But I think like it's a hope that's tempered by an awareness of despair, and those things are in conversation with each other. And that's what really makes it interesting, is that struggle to keep on. But yeah, I don't know. I think that situation, when you drop into it, it just gets me.
Well, I think the point you were just making about how, I think in a lot of these productions, you're doing this every night consistently. Yeah. And I don't know how much you thought about this, but just like the emotional toll that can take. You were just talking about how like your eyes are red, or it's just like, it's a very raw performance. Does that bleed into your personal life? Like, how do you?
I kind of don't think it does, and sometimes it makes me feel like I'm like a fraud or something. Because no, I don't really think so. Like, I can pretty much like be like walk away from it, and it's like that was done. I think the times that it bleeds in the most is when I don't feel like I really like let it go on stage. Like when I was in my head and I didn't really feel like I went through the emotional experience of the play. But that one cumulatively over time kind of did, because I just started to feel like really tired of feeling upset. And I was like, I just don't want to like go to these places that I think this play demands, because I do think this character is undergoing something like incredibly painful, and she's trying her best to overcome it, but like there has to be something there that she wants to overcome. And like experiencing that kind of heartbreak and despair is so intense and profound. And so I wanted to have that gravitas to the performance. I don't know that I really always achieved it, but that was my aim. And I did start to feel like, oh my God, I started to dread it a little bit, honestly, to be honest with you. Just because, I think I was like starting to maybe without my kind of conscious awareness of it, like put up some walls internally against wanting to like go to those dark places all the time. And that's like a good thing that actors deal with all the time. I talked to my friend about it, who's done like a lot of shows that have run for like months or whatever. And I was like, how do you deal with this? And he was like, you just want to kill yourself. And it sucks. Yeah. But for some reason it doesn't suck enough that you want it to stop. So
is it fair to say that there's really no way to do, for example, that performance well, that ending scene well, without like truly going there emotionally?
I don't think that's the case. I think there's like different paths through it. But I think that needs to be like, that's kind of a directorial issue, and like something that needs, I would have need to like find the new path through it. I don't think it's just a matter of, you can just do it differently, and something, it's not that it was the same every night, but it was kind of the same emotional sort of general logic that I'm tracing. I think there could have been a way to do it, but it would have changed the show in big ways. And I think that is viable too. It's not that my performances are the same every night. I really don't think they are, but there is like a certain consistency, which is, I think, generally normal in the theater, although there are a lot of actors too who want to do something wildly different all the time. And I think that's great too. And I try to do different things every night, but sort of the general thrust of it is along the same lines. So yeah, I would have had to like figure out something else that worked. Like, what is this moment about? And it would have to be kind of something different, or a different way, because deadness is the character could be completely emotionally exhausted and feel nothing, and just speak from a place of deadness, or they could be they suddenly have a moment of like manic positivity. There's a lot of different ways through it, but I don't know. I didn't change it.
Mm-hmm. You said earlier in the conversation that, if I heard you correctly, that you were very shy when you were growing up. And I feel like, or at least shy, I think the word was used, that I'm getting the impression that that is not an uncommon story for people that go into acting. And I'm wondering why, in your mind, maybe just for you, like how does someone who is shy by nature end up bawling her eyes out very consistently in front of a bunch of strangers by her own will?
Because I think a lot of people that are shy, like they don't like want it. It's not the same thing as being introverted.
Yeah.
Like they still really crave connection. Often they might be like extroverts. Like I feel like I'm kind of on the cusp of introvert extrovert. So I think a lot of people who are shy have like neurotic or narcissistic or traumatic reasons that make them like afraid to communicate with other people. And so this is a way to like, jump over that barrier, maybe if they aren't able to do it from like within the boundaries of their normal like personality, something like that.
Is this something you've seen consistently or relatively consistently in your
It's something
career?
I heard. I mean, I'd have to like learn. It would be interesting to do like a study of like childhood development, like watching kids like get into acting and stuff. But I wasn't a kid. I was shy socially at school, but with my family and my sister, I was very bossy. So I think I had like a will to power, But for some reason, I was like socially stunted in some way or didn't know how to like adjust to being at school. And maybe this was a way that kind of allowed me to assert myself. And I mean, it gives you a script. It's nice to have lines to say that you can just say them, and it's not up to you to think of what to say and be charming in the moment and really have a real connection with somebody. You are aiming for kind of a connection on stage, of course, but not really when you're 10. You're just, whatever. It's kind of a different thing. But yeah, I don't know. That's my kind of theory of it, I guess. But I don't know. You definitely do hear it a lot. The other thing that I hear a lot, and this isn't my story, but is that actors who moved around a lot when they were kids, like they were in the military, their parents were in the military or something like that. And it also kind of makes a certain amount of sense that they were used to adapting these different kind of personalities or like really exercising their charm in different settings, but maybe not feeling like they had such a core cohesive self because like yourself is so much formed by, or your sense of yourself by your environment or something.
Yeah. That makes sense. We used or talked about the word success earlier a little bit, and I always like to get guess definition of that word. And maybe I know it's a moving target throughout people's lives, but in your career, what at this point do you or would you consider to be a successful acting career?
I mean, I really do think that it can look so many different ways and be like okay in so many different ways. I mean, to me, being able to like financially support yourself with acting, that's one like barometer of success that I think is real, like this sort of like material component of if I can really like make this what allows me to sustain my life. But I definitely don't think at all that that's the only barometer of success or that the only people who have achieved what I would consider really impressive or successful careers are not necessarily like supporting themselves financially. So I think it can look a lot of different ways. And I don't know. I mean, I'd like to be working on roles and projects that I don't know. I feel like anything I say, it's kind of vague maybe, but I was going to say projects that I'm proud of with people that I really respect or find interesting. But those are, again, kind of abstract. So I don't know what it looks like in one way, but I'd like to sort of have consistent work that is of a certain quality, whatever, and that quality can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different contexts, but I would like it to reach a certain quality and hopefully be recognized at least by some people as like of that quality. And that would be great to me.
I don't know how much time you have in your life to actually continue to go see plays yourself. But for somebody who's moving to New York, who lives in New York, what are the great venues that maybe people don't know about that you love?
It's such a sad part of like the culture of theater in New York that like so much of the theater is just not accessible. Yeah. Especially to people just moving to New York or to people like me who are like trying to balance like artistic careers with other jobs and stuff. Like, you know, if it's like $80 is the floor for a ticket to off-Broadway, it's really bad right now. And like, so I don't get to see as much of the sort of off-Broadway, Broadway theater as I really would like to. Once in a while, I saw the Cherry Orchard kind of recently at St. Anne's, and that was great. I would definitely say pay attention to shows that are like coming in from Europe. That was a European production because I think they are ahead of us in certain ways, like in terms of like aesthetically with what they're doing with theater. And there's a lot more money from the state over there for theater. So I think it's good to kind of keep up with what's coming to BAM, what's coming to St. Anne's. And I will try to see, I saw like Thomas Ostermeyer is this German director do Hamlet with Lars Eidinger. It was a big German production. I kind of like try to be aware when those things are coming to New York. I would have loved to see, you know, all of the kind of big shows going up. The Streetcar that was up recently. But But there's a lot of great like indie theater as well, this sort of things that I'm involved with too, and that's more accessible. But I think it would be nice if like the whole landscape was a little more cohesive, that like you can go see a play on Broadway and then you can go see a play in a basement. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard now.
Are there any secrets you've learned over the years of off-Broadway venues that most people probably have never heard of that you think are putting on typically really solid stuff?
I don't know. I need to know the tips. So if you find out, let me know. I do like St. Anne's, but that's hardly like a hidden gem. It's pretty well known. Seems like it comes in waves. Like a place will be doing really good stuff for a while, and then it's kind of not as interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have the insider secret.
I don't know if you've thought a lot about this, but I always like to ask guests this too. Are there artists that you know of or have worked with? They don't necessarily have to be actors, whose talents or ability or performances you have just been blown away by, but are not well known.
Yeah.
And if so, I don't know who might come to mind.
I mean, it happens all the time there's a lot of like theater actors in New York that are not famous, but they are like working theater actors and they're really, really good often. And I see that often, like the character actor in something who just kind of blows you away. I don't know off the top of my head, like who I would immediately point to, but I think it's very common. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking of this production of The Cherry Orchard just because I just saw it recently. So it's like the first thing at the top of my head. But like there was all the kind of older character actors in that were like really great. And he's not really unknown. How unknown are we talking? No, this guy's on TV, so I don't think that counts as unknown.
What's his name?
I don't know.
Okay.
So I guess he's unknown by me.
Yeah. He's really unknown.
I mean, honestly, my fiance and I had a collective amnesia the other day where we couldn't remember Keanu Reeves' name for so long while we were looking at him. So I'm having like amnesia about celebrities' names right now.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But yeah, I think there's a lot of them, but I'm not sure off the top of my head who.
Last question I would love to ask from you is about advice you would give your younger self. You know, you've been in New York now for years.
Yeah.
If you had to give advice to the 22-year-old version of you, or to put it another way, a friend of yours who is moving to New York, who's younger, who's trying to do what you're doing, what knowledge, what wisdom, what information have you learned that you think might be worth considering?
Oh, well, I would want to kind of impart my general awareness about the world to that person. I don't know if that's possible because some of that experience is only like experience that can be gained with time. But I would have wanted myself to, I think I had kind of like a paranoid view of the world, like, and it kind of comes back to the shyness, like casting directors, people in positions of authority really scared me. And I would get really tense in some of my auditions because I would feel this like gaze of the other. And it was hard for me to really like present myself and my personality in a confident way. So I would have like encouraged myself not to do that, but I think that I don't think that's like something you can just like analytically change just from, it's not like a knowledge thing, it's more like an experiential thing. I would have encouraged like my old agent, my manager told me like acting is like an Olympic sport, and it's really true. Like, don't fuck around. I would have maybe had more of a kind of not exactly cutthroat, but extremely, I don't know if I regret this or wish it had been this way, but I do think to achieve a kind of high level of success, you need to have like an extreme level of dedication and focus and awareness of a lot of different things. In terms of like social trends of how you present yourself, how I would have looked at all this stuff a little more closely. I think I went in a little more naive, like, oh, I went to acting school, I understand acting, but it's success, it's a career, and it's political, and it's cultural capital, and it's style, and it's poise and how you present yourself, and it's social networking and all these kind of things that aren't fun to talk about, especially when you're like 22 and really idealistic. But that is an essential component, and you kind of do have to be thinking like a premier athlete who has like a high level of control over what they're doing. And I do think that's like also a big reason that like there's a lot of talk about like nepotism in the industry, but I think if you come from that kind of environment, like you might just have more of an understanding of that, having been in that world, and somebody who's just like starry-eyed from like the suburbs maybe doesn't. So I think I would have told myself to like get smart or something, but there would have been a lot of things that I wouldn't have done and experienced if I had been thinking that way. So I don't know what would have been best.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you.
Thank you.